Hello you guys, my name is Erica and welcome to a new video. Despite the fact that we are a good way into the month of December and I am wearing a snowman sweater, I am here to do my November wrap-up. This is my first official wrap-up video and I feel like I'm going to continue to say that during videos since my channel is so new. Like, I'm gonna have a lot of firsts here in, the next month or two or so. I've really liked the wrap-up videos that kind of start with the stats of what they read that month, so I decided to do that as well. So I have my little note card here with the different kinds of books that I read in the month of November. In total, I read 8 books, which is really exciting. That is the most books that I have ever read in a single month in my entire life. I hope to beat that though, because for December, my TBR is 12 books long. So I read 8 full books and I DNF'd 1 book, which I will also talk about. Of the 8 books that I read, 6 of them were middle grade, which I picked and read specifically for Readathon, which is a readathon that I participated in the month of November, and I will go ahead and link that information down in the description box if you are interested in knowing what that is. But basically, it's a readathon dedicated entirely to middle grade books and children's books, and it encourages people to read middle grade and children's books. And so I picked 6 middle grade books and I read them all. Well, okay, I DNF'd 1 of them, but I also found a replacement. Anyway, I'll talk about it. And then I also read 2 adult books. So 6 middle grade, 2 adult. That brings my total to the 8 that I read. Of the middle grade books that I read, 2 of them were fantasy. 1 of them was nonfiction. 1 of them was a historical fiction. 1 of them was a contemporary, and 1 of them was paranormal. Of the 2 adult novels that I read this month, or last month, November, 1 of them was a mystery thriller, and 1 of them was a fantasy. So, I'm excited to talk about what I read. Let's actually get started, because I think that's all I have to say. Oh, I guess I am gonna do star ratings, which I hadn't really been talking about in any of my vlogs or anything. And I actually watched a ton of videos talking about star ratings and why people give star ratings, why people don't give star ratings, what their 5-star rating scale means to them. And I don't want to go into too much detail about how I'm going to rate books. I do think I am going to rate books. I am basically just kind of going with my gut, and it's going to be very subjective, and there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to why I am rating the books that I'm rating, aside from the general feeling that I have about the book after having read it. So the first book I'm gonna go ahead and talk about is the one that I DNF'd, which was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. If you watch my vlogs, you know that I did not finish this book. I think I got maybe 100 pages into it and was like, nah, not for me. I had relatively high hopes going into this because I know that it is a series that a lot of people have liked. As a high school English teacher, I have a lot of students that really enjoyed this series, and it hurts my heart a little bit that I did not enjoy it, but I did not enjoy it. There were a couple of things that I actually thought were kind of problematic about this book that rubbed me the wrong way. Okay, first of all, let's rewind. Let's talk about what this book is about if you are unfamiliar. It is about Percy Jackson, who eventually, I didn't even get to that part, but eventually he learns that he is the son of Poseidon. And so there are all of these mythological allusions and all of these characters that are in this book that are either mythical gods or mythical creatures. And that all sounds great in theory, but the story takes place in the United States, which I get because it's obviously written for American audiences. But there's this whole section, and I think that's really where I put this book down. There was this whole section where one of the gods or whatever is trying to explain to Percy why these Greek or Roman mythical gods and creatures are now suddenly in the United States. And he tries to explain how, like, oh, the gods just like travel around, and like over centuries they just find themselves in these different parts of the world, and right now we just happen to be chilling in America. It just felt weirdly like American centric to me, and I was not digging that. It just did not sit well with me. So that was a problem for me with this. The other problem that I had, which I predicted from the beginning, is that this author uses physical disabilities that real people deal with daily to mask the fact that certain characters are like magical creatures. So like, instead of a centaur being a centaur, in order for them to blend into the normal world, they're like paralyzed and are in a wheelchair, and that somehow like masks the fact that they're half horse. And I feel like that really undermines a lot of experiences that people with actual disabilities have. And that was something that I was really afraid was going to be the case, and it was the case, and I just did not like it. I get why the author did it that way, but yeah, just not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. In addition, I just didn't enjoy the first person point of view from Percy's perspective. Just wasn't into it, and so that kind of was not interesting to me, and overall I just did not like this book. So I apologize if this is something that you enjoyed, but it was just not for me. So first official DNF of this channel, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Obviously, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is a middle grade book, and it is one that I had selected for Believeathon. So let's actually talk about the other middle grade books that I read in the month of November that I really did enjoy. One of them, which I really want to talk about, and which was a 5-star read for me, is this book is Antiracist by Tiffany Jewell and illustrated by Aurelia Durand, and it is beautifully illustrated. This book is so well done, and it is so important, and it is so accessible. It is technically categorized as a middle grade or maybe even like a young adult, because it really breaks down a lot of these concepts for a younger audience. But because it breaks things down so well and has such a fantastic like way of organizing these ideas, that I really do think it is something that is very accessible to people of all ages. And if you're looking to educate yourself on anti-racist practices, then I highly recommend that you start with this one. I think it does such a good job because it starts with your personal experiences and then works your way through like the history of these things, and then eventually by the end it's giving you lots of advice on how to be more active and how to speak up and how to take action to make a difference and to be more actively anti-racist. And I think that that is just so hugely important and so hugely relevant that I think everyone should find a copy of this book and read it and do some self-reflection. Talk about it with the people in your life. Talk about it with your kids. If you're an educator and you have ways of bringing this book, bringing these chapters, these lessons into your classroom, I also think that that is a fantastic idea. So if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're someone who's just looking to educate yourself on what it means to be anti-racist, or maybe you're just wanting some more basic information on what racism is and how it functions in our society and how it functions within our personal lives, then this is definitely the book for you. I highly, highly recommend. Also, it's just gorgeous. I mean, the illustrations are beautiful. Next is The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. This is a middle grade fantasy that is based on Russian folklore, which was really interesting, and it was really, really cute. It was definitely heartwarming. It has that wintry sort of setting, if that's something that you like. It's one that I was really looking forward to reading during Believeathon because I know it's been a really, really popular one and one that I've heard a lot about on BookTube, and I was really hoping that I would love it the way that other people have loved it, but I don't know that I can say that I absolutely loved it. I really did enjoy it, and I gave it 4 stars. It was very, very sweet. It had lots of great messages about, you know, finding your herd, meaning like finding your family, finding the people that you belong to. There was also the message of asking for help and like how there is strength in not always trying to do everything by yourself and actually relying on other people and working with other people to accomplish something. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, with being vulnerable and saying that you need help. And this story focuses a lot on that. And that's something that our main character is sort of having to learn over the course of her adventures, that she doesn't have to do it alone. She is able to ask other people for help, and they're able to work together to get things done. And so I really liked that message, and I liked how it was done. I also realized that I did not really tell you what the story was about. It is based on Russian folklore, but specifically it is about a girl, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name, Yanka. This book is about Yanka, and she is found abandoned as a baby in a bear cave, and so she is basically adopted by this woman from a nearby village. And by the age of like 12, she wakes up one morning and her legs have transformed into bear legs. And so she knows she has this connection to bears. She knows she has this connection to the forest. She doesn't really know where she comes from, and she's feeling very, very out of place. And so she decides to venture into the forest, and she meets all these different characters. She has this great adventure, and of course, ultimately, she finds out where she belongs. So it was a very, very cute story. It did make me cry a little bit. There were some moments that were quite emotional. Like, it doesn't take a lot for me to cry, let's just be honest, but there were some moments where I definitely teared up. And I would also say one of my other favorite things about this book is probably the character Mousetrap, who is her little, what is he? He's a weasel. So Mousetrap is like her little sort of animal sidekick, and he was very cute and very funny. This one was cute. 4 stars overall. Recommend if this is your vibe and you think you might be interested in this kind of fantasy story. Next is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga, and this was another 4-star read for me. I really liked this one. It is a verse novel. It is a middle grade contemporary, and it follows a girl named Jude who has to flee Syria and come to live in the United States with family that lives in Ohio. And so it's a bit of culture shock for her, coming from Syria and having to go to an American school, having to make American friends. She's in like an ELL class where she's learning English as a second language. Granted, she already speaks English pretty well, and she is fairly aware of American culture. She likes a lot of American movies. She wants to be an actress someday. Really, this is just her story of kind of coming to terms with the situation that she and her family are in and finding her place in the United States. And she deals with a lot of pushback. She deals with a lot of prejudice, feeling like she doesn't belong. In that way, there were definitely moments that were pretty heartbreaking, but overall it's a very hopeful story. It's very beautifully written, and it's written in verse. So this was one that I actually ended up listening to on audiobook, and I thought that was really done well also. So highly recommend this one as well. Kind of along that same vein, another book that I read is Refugee, and this is a middle grade historical fiction, and it actually follows 3 kids who are each existing at a different point in time. So you have one of the kids is Jewish, and he is living in the 1930s in Nazi-occupied Germany, and then you have another person who is living in Cuba in 1994, and then the third person is living in Syria in 2015, which is why I sort of made the connection to Other Words for Home. But this is a story about these 3 characters at very different points in history, but who are all facing a similar situation, which is that they have to flee their home country and become refugees. And it's their story of how they're trying to survive in really, really horrifying situations. I absolutely cried for each of these characters throughout this book. Obviously, there's nothing that's too overly graphic because it is a middle grade, but there are some really hard-hitting things about this book, and these characters are put into some really, really scary and sad situations. I really liked how it was done. Overall, this was a book that I really enjoyed. Again, I gave it 4 stars. I am such a huge fan of multiple perspectives, so jumping back and forth between the 3 different kids from the 3 different timelines was really interesting to me. And it's also cool because we're told that by the end their timelines sort of connect, which I enjoyed sort of following that piece of it as well, and sort of figuring out how each of these characters are connected over time. I think that this is a narrative that more people need to be more aware of, and I thought that the way that this was done, especially giving us multiple instances of this kind of experience from multiple characters at different points in time, is very relevant and very effective. So this is definitely one that I enjoyed. Next is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, and this, of course, if you couldn't tell, is the paranormal middle grade that I read, and it's a ghost story. So we are following Cass, who has this ability to cross the veil and be able to communicate with spirits or ghosts. In fact, her best friend, Jacob, oh my gosh, am I remembering these names right? Yes, his name is Jacob. Okay, so she can see ghosts. Her best friend Jacob is a ghost, and they're like connected because she had a near-death experience and he somehow was able to like save her from it. And so now they are like connected in some way, and she's able to see him and communicate with him, and he's able to like follow her around, and they have sort of this interesting relationship or friendship. And basically what happens in this story is Cass's parents are these authors of like historical ghost stories. And to sort of take their careers to the next level, they start a sort of ghost TV show where they go around to these different parts of the world and they talk about the history of sort of these haunted places. And so the rest of the book takes place in Scotland, and she goes with her parents as they are working on this TV show, and she visits all these haunted places and of course ends up dealing with the ghosts that reside there. So overall, it was cool. I thought the concept was cool. I don't know that I liked it as much as the other middle grades that I read this month. I gave it a 3-star. I thought it was just kind of okay. The other weird thing that I was a little put off by was how many references to Harry Potter there were. And I know that's gonna sound weird because I love Harry Potter, but this character is like obsessed with Harry Potter, and she brought it up so many times that it was like odd to me and sort of like took me out of the story for a second, because I was like, oh my gosh, we're talking about Harry Potter again, which makes sense because it takes place in Edinburgh, which is like the birthplace of Harry Potter. So there is that connection to the setting, but it was just weird to me that that was included so frequently throughout the story. So overall, was it a cute ghost story? Yes. Do I still intend to read more by V.E. Schwab? Yes, I'm actually reading one of her adult fantasy novels this month. I haven't started it yet, but hopefully it's good. I obviously liked the book. I did not dislike the book. It just wasn't a 4 or a 5 for me. It was just good. So there's that one. And of course, now that I just talked about being relatively annoyed by how many references to Harry Potter existed in City of Ghosts, I'm now going to talk about Harry Potter because this is the last middle grade that I read in the month of November. I technically did not start this in the month of November. I had been working my way through this one, but I finished it in the month of November, and it actually worked out great because technically Harry Potter is a middle grade, and so I felt like I could just slide this in and sort of use it as a replacement for Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief and still fulfill all of the prompts that I wanted to for the readathon. I have slowly been working my way through the Harry Potter series and rereading it for the first time as an adult this year in 2020. I have really been enjoying it. I was a little afraid going back and reading it as an adult that I would not love it as much as I have had in the past, but like the nostalgia is there for me. And regardless of its flaws, this was another 5-star read for me. I don't think I'm ever going to give Harry Potter not 5 stars. I do want to mention, though, that I am fully aware of the garbage that came from this author over the summer. Do I agree with anything that the author said? No. Because I want it to be clear that I don't support or agree with any of the things that the author said. Am I still going to read Harry Potter? Yes. Am I still going to talk about Harry Potter throughout some of my videos? Probably. I don't really have anything else to say about this. And we're gonna move on to the adult novels that I read in the month of November. The adult mystery thriller that I read in the month of November was The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, and this was a buddy read with my friend Taylor. It took us pretty much the whole month to get through it together and actually like talk about it in sections, but overall we both really enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Did we predict everything that happened? Yes, pretty much. Was it still an enjoyable experience? Absolutely. I thought that the writing was really well done. I was intrigued the entire time. I know that a lot of people have said that they didn't like this because they felt that it was boring. I think that could be because it was so character driven and we were getting the whole story from a very unreliable narrator whose day-to-day existence was very like routine and repetitive. And so in that way, I do understand how people would maybe not be so into that, but I love a good character driven story. I loved like the stream of consciousness sort of narration that we got out of this particular character. So what the story is about is it's about a character named Anna. And she is agoraphobic, meaning that she does not ever leave her house. She is afraid to go outside. She is afraid to leave her home. And so she spends a lot of her time watching the people in her neighborhood from her window. And she becomes especially obsessed with a particular family that lives across from her. And she sort of develops a connection or relationship with a couple of the family members. And then she sees something that she wasn't supposed to see. The story kind of goes on from there, and I don't want to say much else because I don't want to spoil anything. But after that, the whole rest of the story is sort of this mystery of what actually happened, and did she see the thing that she thought she saw, and if she did, what does it mean? And I was definitely hooked and wanting to know what was going on. Did it take us a bit to get there by the end? Possibly, but I still thought everything was so well done. There were so many other things happening. So you had like the mystery of that, but you also had like the trauma that she experienced leading up to this particular story and her actually being agoraphobic, how she's been dealing with that. And I thought, again, as someone who likes character-driven stories, I thought that that was really interesting. Overall, it was a good book. I did enjoy it. It's been a while since I've read any kind of like mystery thriller, so again, I was kind of jumping back into a genre that I haven't been in a while. And I know that like mystery thriller is a big genre for a lot of people, and a lot of people have big opinions about thrillers and have very specific interests when it comes to thrillers. And I know a lot of people really liked this book, and a lot of people really did not like this book. So I personally liked it, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, you guys, the last book that I am going to talk about in this video is one of my all-time new favorites ever, and it is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Oh my god, I love this book. This story follows Linus, who is such a sweetheart, and he works for a company that oversees magical children, specifically magical orphans, and he kind of goes around to these different orphanages to inspect them and make sure that they're running the way that they're supposed to. And of course, at this point in our story, he is sent on a very specific mission to a very specific orphanage that is on this island in the Cerulean Sea. And his journey with these kids in this place it's everything. We have a beautiful queer romance, we have adorable magical children, and we have so many great messages in this book. Like, if you want to read a book that's gonna help you feel good about yourself, read this book. This book talks so much about loving yourself, about accepting yourself for who you are, about not buying into what society tells you to be or what society has decided that you are, and instead choosing who you want to be and living the life that you want to live. It's about found family. It's about finding magic in the ordinary. Guys, there's just so many good things happening in this book. If you want love, if you want joy, if you want adventure, if you want a sweet, heartwarming story, then this is the one for you. After reading this, I just wanted to crawl into this book and live inside it. I think about it daily. I absolutely adored this book. It is going to be one of my favorite books of all time. I just loved it so, so much. I had such a fantastic experience with this book. Did I bawl my eyes out? Yes, multiple times. Was it because I was heartbroken? Yes. Was it because I was so happy and touched by moments in this book between these characters? Yes. It is so character driven, and I love all of the characters. I love their relationships with each other. Ugh. And I just love that it's told from Linus's perspective. There's just something so special, I think, about his character, and something so relatable on some level. It's also like, he's also 40. I mean, this is a story about an older character who finds love. This story is so freaking hopeful. I can't even get over it. I think if there's like one complaint that people might have about this, there are moments where maybe those messages are a little on the nose because the characters are like directly stating those lessons. I think for some people that might not be their favorite thing, but I also get it because a lot of it was within the context of an adult telling these things to a child. And so in those moments, I think you do have to be very direct in what you want them to know, which is that they should love themselves and they should accept themselves, and they can decide if they want to be good, and that they are good, and that they are worthy and deserving of good things, and they are likable and they are lovable, and that just because the world tells you you're bad doesn't mean you're bad. Those are things that we all need to hear. So obviously This will not be the last that you hear of this book on this channel, because I am going to continue to shout from the rooftops that this is one of the best books that you could read, especially in 2020. This is the one. Get yourself a copy of this and go read it as soon as you can. And then once you've read it, reread it. I know that I will for a fact be rereading this probably relatively soon. Did I mention this got 5 stars? Solid 5 stars. Solid 5 stars for me. 5 out of 5. All right, well, now that I have been aggressively talking about books for the past hour, this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching my November wrap-up video. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned today, please let me know down in the comments and let me know what some of your thoughts were. I would love to chat to you about any of the books that I read this month, whether you liked it or not. Let me know, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!